Happy Monday, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for AIME's Women's Mortgage Network's Growth Series. This series is here to educate, inspire, and share your progress as we lift each other up to new levels. On today's show, we have three WMN panelists who are going to discuss Dr. Lois Frankel's book, Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. So let's meet our panelists. From North Carolina, we have Barb Multari, the broker owner of Pathway Mortgage Group. From Florida, we have Alicia Jones, the broker owner of Elite Lending Solutions. And from Kansas, we have Chris Ann Carter. She is the Senior Vice President of Marketing at AmeriSave Mortgage Corporation. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today, and let's kick it off. All of you have taken a big leap of faith in the last 12, 24 months. So let's hear, what advice would you give to the group if they were struggling with a big decision? Let's start with Barb.
Ooh, okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. I think I speak for all of us when I say we're really excited and privileged to be here and have this opportunity. I think when I think of the biggest decisions I've ever had to make, I go through a couple of different things. I first ask myself, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen? Like really play that out into what's the absolute worst thing that can happen, and can I survive that? And because we all know that's not going to happen anyway, because the worst thing hasn't ever happened that I've made up in my head before. Then I think about what's the best thing that could possibly happen, and would I trade trying to avoid the worst thing and give up on what the best thing is? So those are the questions I go through. And the other thing is having a really good, strong network of help that you can reach out to and talk to, and people who can help check your thinking and make sure that all the things you're thinking about as you get ready to launch into this new venture, everything is sound and your plan is strong. But really ask yourself the question, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And whatever we can all come up with, that's not going to happen. So charge forward and lay a good plan and have a good network of support around you.
Awesome. Love that answer. All right, Chris Ann, tell us, when you're making that big decision, what do you do in your mind to really, hone in on that final answer?
Yeah, the COVID has really made me have to make some decisions, big decisions, and I've kind of changed the way I was doing it because I don't think I was very good at it. And Barb, you brought up a good point about getting some advice from other people. Mm-hmm. And I would say make sure that you have someone who really understands and knows you, but not to get too many opinions. That's one of the things I used to do too much, is I would ask too many people, and then I would pretty much get an even amount of people saying, go this way or go that way. And I always laugh that I have two best friends. One I go to when I want to grow, and one I go to when I want to be supported, right? Like, yeah, he is a jerk. Yeah. And the other one's like, well, what could you have done to contribute, right? So you got to think about who you're asking those questions of, if you're just going to get what you want to hear or what you really, really want. So, which is a perspective. So that's my caveat to that. And then the second thing is allowing my subconscious to do a little work and not overthink, just really have some quiet time to let the subconscious take over. And then lastly, be more forgiving. And I'm not flawed if I haven't come up with an answer yet. It's mainly I'm telling myself I don't have enough information. If I haven't been able to make this decision, I need to either wait for more information or seek out more information.
That's great. That's wonderful. All right, Arlesia, what do you go through in your process?
I think I go through a little bit of what everybody has said. When you have to make a decision, I always like to remind myself that I have a choice, right? And it kind of goes back to what Barbara's saying. I think about, hey, is my choice going to lead me to something that's going to be like detrimental, or is it going to be something that's going to turn out to be super positive in the end and I'm pleased with it? So I like to do like a pros and cons kind of thing. Where I list, okay, hey, these are the benefits of the decision, right? These are the cons of the decision that I make, and weigh those things out. And then I think it's great to have a sounding board, someone that you can go to as well, who may be a little bit more advanced than you, someone who's, on a higher level than you are, to ask for their opinion as well. And then I have to remind myself when I do that I'm asking you for an opinion, but I don't want to hold the decision I make to that decision, but I'm using it as a way just to gather more information in order to make a more calculated decision.
That's great. Okay. All right. Next question. It's been proven that women don't network as much as men. So, Chris-Anne, what are some recommendations do you have when you're going out to that network for feedback, for insights, for support? What are some recommendations that you have for the group?
I think we all need to schedule and be purposeful about social media instead of kind of being like joining it and in and out throughout a day or at night when you're at quiet time. That's fine for the social friends thing, but from a professional standpoint, schedule that time and be purposeful about it. Really look at, I scroll through comments a lot and I see what people are writing. And then if I'm interested in what they said, then I go to their profile and I look at them and decide if that's someone I maybe want to be connected with, and try to connect with 5 or 6 people a week, at least one a day, if you want to think of it that way or whatnot. And then again, read comments, find people that are like you or are like-minded or maybe that you find interesting, and also do comment, make comments, get in the conversation, engage. If you were at a party, you wouldn't just walk up to people and be like, "Hi, I'm Chris-Anne Cardiff, and I do blah 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 blah." You talk and you congregate. So we want to do the same thing on social media and make sure that is not talking at people. Everybody has access to your profile. You don't have to explain who you are and what you do. You can just be interesting, and then people will want to be around you and follow you and that type of thing.
I think that's great. Good advice. Okay, next, let's speak about negative talk. We've all experienced, our own little brains, speaking negatively to ourselves. So, Barb, what's some advice for our group when that creeps in the back of our minds?
Does it ever not creep into the back of our minds? I don't know. That little voice is going back here all the time. So again, I think I'm going to keep coming back to a critical part for all of us is to have a great network of people. Like Chris-Anne said, she calls her friend for support, when that voice is going back there. I think we need to learn to hear that voice, but not give it any credit. Again, what's the worst thing that could happen? Is this really the truth of the situation, or is this just what I've made up in my head? All of us are our own worst self-critics, right? So we have to learn to move the critic aside or determine if what the critic has to say right now is valid for what we need to be doing. Usually it isn't. And so we have to get better and more skilled at just letting that voice exist, but not giving it credit, not having it stop our actions we're doing, not, succumbing to those voices in our head. I was a little nervous to come on this call, right? That I think Laura said there were close to 1,000 women on here, and I had that moment where I thought, what am I going to contribute to all these women? So here I am. We have to move forward anyway. We have to do what we can, but really try to just let that voice be there, but don't get attached to it. Don't listen to it. Don't have it direct your actions that you're going to be in. And call your support group if you can't move out of that yourself.
Absolutely. Okay. So Dr. Frankel states that women hesitate to give feedback at times, and sometimes it's hard for us to actually listen to feedback, partially because that little voice is in the back of our head again. So Arlesia, how do we encourage everyone to give and receive feedback without emotion? Just being open to it.
I think, one of the main things that we want to take into consideration when we're giving feedback is to make sure that the person we're giving feedback to has some clear expectations in the first place, right? We can't give feedback necessarily to someone who may have not known what their role was in whatever was going on, right? If you're talking to an assistant and you weren't clear and concise on what you expected from them,
Right.
or your relationship with someone, you need to be clear on what your expectations are between that person in order to give feedback. And then, obviously with receiving feedback, I think the number one thing we need to do is be able to listen and listen without thinking of an answer or response while the person is speaking, but clearly, taking into consideration what they're saying and, coming up with a response. And maybe your response to that criticism or feedback is, hey, I wasn't clear of the goals in the first place, and that then you can kind of take the emotions out of it and say, hey, I wasn't clear of what the goals were with that feedback. So I apologize. Let's move forward and set up some clear guidelines. So the next time when it's time to give that feedback or receive it, everybody's on the same page.
Love it. Awesome. Okay. So Dr. Lois also states that boys and girls are taught in childhood to be modest, but women kind of take it to the extreme. So how do we project confidence and be proud without coming across as arrogant or conceited? Chris Ann.
Yeah, so the first thing I think we need to do as a society is stop having those thoughts. So some of this is on us to quell that judgment of someone or commenting, even, especially around our children. I know I tend to be kind of judgmental if a Kardashian comes on the screen, and maybe that's not really the way to do it. We should be uplifting and helping, those are some strong, confident women, right? I mean, at the end of the day. So that, and then also I think in every interaction that I have, if I'm feeling like I might be a burden or asking something, it's making me feel vulnerable, then I turn it around. I figure out like what's in it for this person that I'm talking to give me what it is that I need, whether it's selling my services or getting my child to do the dishes, whatever it is. There's something in it for them to do what I'm asking. And so if I can focus on that, then I have more confidence because now I've taken the spotlight off of what I want and made it more about the person that I'm talking to.
I love it. Love it. Okay. We were having a great discussion even before we went live, where we hear that there's a situation with women that, and Chris Ann actually, I didn't even remember that it was Chris Ann that brought this up to me at a conference, but it was that we tend to apologize even when it's not a situation where we should be apologizing. So Barb, give us your thoughts on why do we tend to do that and how can we kind of catch ourselves from saying I'm sorry in situations where we really shouldn't be apologizing?
Yeah, so I was doing a little bit of research coming into this conversation about this topic, and what I found was really interesting. The scientific studies that were done say that men and women both apologize 81% of the time when they feel they've done something to hurt or inconvenience the other person. And what they found was different between men and women is that women have a very low threshold for what we consider to be intrusive or interruptive or offensive to other people. So while we apologize at the same rate, we're over here thinking, oh, I'm inconveniencing everybody every time I ask them to do something. And so that's what we have to look at is, did I actually do something here that caused the other person inconvenience or some disruption or something like that? We also talked about, we all tend to have a lot on our plate as women and moms and running companies and branches and divisions. And so when we ask somebody else to do something, we know how much we have on our plate. So we're just automatically apologizing to them for adding something more to their plate, even though it's something that is absolutely necessary and required to get the job done. I think we also struggle a little bit with just making clear requests of people because we feel like we're being demanding or overbearing or something like that. So if there's something that's needed to get the job done, make a clear request of the other person. Don't apologize for it. You know, the doctor doesn't tell you sorry when he has to have you get on the scale and, you know, check certain, well, when they poke your arm, they do. But other than that, like, these are the things that are needed to get the job done. They don't apologize to you for them. So recognizing first when we have to catch ourselves, like self-awareness, and catch ourselves doing those things, like starting an email with, I'm so sorry, or responding on a text message, sorry, I didn't respond right away. We have to first catch ourselves. And Chris Ann had a good point when we were coming onto the call, saying, you know, if you're running a little bit late for something, don't say, sorry, I'm late. Say, thanks so much for waiting for me. So reframe that into a thank you for, you know, thank you in advance for working on this for us. We appreciate it. Please do this. So we have to be self-aware first. And then we have to shift our mindset and our language around what we actually say to the people, and really ask yourself, did I do something here that caused harm? If you didn't, you don't need to apologize. You can thank them, but you don't need to apologize.
I love that. And you're correct. The first thing is us being aware. So it's almost like just paying attention to, is this really something I'm apologizing for? Or like you said, we turn it around. Great advice. Okay, ladies, we're up to the final question. You've done awesome. All right, Arlesia, I want to know from all of you, what's your superpower that separates you from everyone else, professionally and personally? What's something special for you? Because I believe as women, we all have a superpower. So what's your superpower?
So I was thinking about this, and I read somewhere where it talked about, you know, superpowers, and one of the things that it said was that, you know, superpowers may not necessarily be like a skill set, you know, something that you can physically do. It can just be your personality, your demeanor, your character, how you act, behave. You know, we talk to a lot of people over the phone now, especially during the pandemic. We don't see people face to face. It can simply be the tone of our voices. You know, because I know you have clients who in our industry who may say, oh my God, I love you. You're this, you're that. And I think just being you, just being who you are is a superpower. And nobody can be Barb, nobody can be Christine, nobody can be Laura or Alicia. And so our superpowers, whether we know it or not, are just being ourselves.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Yes. All right, Chris Ann, what's the superpower?
I think my superpower is my sense of humor, because I tend to use it to build rapport or defuse a situation, especially when brokers are really panicking about something that I may or may not be able to control. It was kind of funny one time when I was in account executive, and I would be driving around. A lot of times I'd be text talking, and I'd look down and it completely jarbled what I said. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to send it anyway, because it sort of breaks down that, like, okay, we're all human here. And that, and, you know, a lot of times it's really funny. Siri, I don't know where she gets some of the words she comes up with, but that kind of breaks the tension and allows us to remember that we're both human and we both want the same thing. And so I like to use that. And I took a lot of improv classes and comedy writing classes, and I even did stand-up comedy for a long time, because I'm one of those weird people that loves to get up in front of people. And so that has really helped my presentation skills and all of that. And my emotional IQ, I think, is higher because of it.
And the mortgage business definitely needs a lot more humor. So I'll keep doing that, Christine. Christine, we'll take that. Absolutely. All right, Barb. What's your superpower?
I have a really great gift to connect pretty quickly and easily and build rapport with people. And I have a genuine interest in people. Like, I'm always, we get to see so many different careers and families and houses. And it's, you know, I did a loan for the guy who's in charge of the frosting on the Frosted Flakes once. Like, I'm just really interested in people, like, genuinely. And so I think that helps me, connect quickly with them, build rapport. I remember I have a great memory of all sorts of, off the wall things I remember about clients from 10 years ago. So I have really good rapport building skill with people in a one-on-one scenario. And that is probably my greatest gift.
I love that. And that comes in very handy in the work that you're doing. So that's wonderful. All right, ladies, you did amazing. I loved your insights. Great advice shared with the team. So thank you so much for joining us. I was telling everyone, we are at 985 Women's Mortgage Networks members. So we are so close to 1,000. So this week, ladies, think of everyone out there in your networks that can get value out of this, be part of this supportive group. So let's get to 1,000 this week. We definitely are so close. We're going to do it. All right. And next week, we have one of our Women's Mortgage Networks members are going to be spotlighted. Mo Hernandez is going to be on, and we are going to get to hear her background, her insights, and spend some time with her. So thank you so much, everybody. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.